Once you have your properly exported OMF and the QuickTime reference movie on hand, it's time to import them into Pro Tools. Let's check this out. Getting an OMF or AAF into Pro Tools is a pretty simple process. Pro Tools even treats an OMF as a session file. So here we have our deliverables in our OMF. You can double-click on it to open it, or go to Pro Tools and go to File, Open, and choose it. Let's do that. In Pro Tools, File, Open Session, I find it here, click on it, and click Open. This will start a new session, so we have to check our audio file type, sample rate, and bit depth. These are all the ones we want to use, so we'll click OK. Then it'll ask us where to put it. So we'll put it in our 0301, and we'll call it andinhrace, which is the name of the OMF file to begin with. Pro Tools immediately brings you into this Import Session Data dialog box. This is the same Import Session Data box you'll use to import session data from other Pro Tools sessions as well. On the top left, you have your source properties. This tells us the info we need to know about the source OMF file we're importing. In this case, it says the source timecode format is 24 frames per second. This is due to the original metadata attached to the sequence settings in Final Cut Pro. As we'll come to see, the true frame rate of this project is actually 23.976. Below that, we have our media options. Some of these options would have more ramifications if you were importing from another Pro Tools session, not an OMF. Here we have link to source media. This would be a possibility if your OMF came from an Avid Media Composer system, because there it's possible to export an OMF and the media files separately. If you do receive an OMF in this format, and you don't want to double up on media, you can choose this. If you're given just the standard one OMF file with embedded media, like we had, you should choose Copy from Source Media. That's probably going to be your usual setting. In this pull-down menu, you also have the option to consolidate from source media. I wouldn't choose that here because you don't want to cut off any media that you might want to use. You also have Force to Target Session Format, which is irrelevant in this case. Video media options here are also grayed out because we're going to actually import our video separately from the OMF transfer. Assuming your video editor set up the timecode correctly from the beginning, you should choose up here in the timecode mapping options to maintain absolute timecode values. As we can see, it's already set to 5830, which is the same as our start time from our source properties. You could choose to use maintain relative timecode values if, for example, the video editor was using timecode starting at hour 3, and you don't want all your audio to start way down the timeline. This way it'll start relative to the beginning of your session. You can also customize the start time by mapping the start time to a specific timecode. We're going to keep it on maintain absolute timecode values. One other option here is you could offset your incoming tracks to a specific timecode by choosing it in the Offset Incoming Tracks To field. Sample rate conversion options are also possible. SRC stands for sample rate conversion. If you check Apply SRC, you can choose a different sample rate to convert as you're importing. But since our source sample rate is 48 kHz and our destination sample rate for our session we chose to be 48 kHz, we're not going to check that box. Next, you have all of your source tracks. As you can see, our OMF contains 5 tracks, which are all highlighted in blue. If you wanted, you can choose to deselect some of these tracks and not include them in the OMF import. But for now, we're going to keep them all selected. At the bottom, we have some more options. Because we plan on doing significant audio work in Pro Tools, I think it's best to ignore any rendered effects, ignore clip-based gain, ignore auto gain, and we're actually going to choose not to pan odd tracks left and even tracks right. That'll just make more work for us later when we have to reset the pans to center. For track data to import, we can choose Some. This is all the data you could potentially import. I like to choose All. But for example, you can choose to deselect volume automation if you wanted to ignore the volume settings from the video editor. Playlists aren't supported by OMF, so we can ignore these settings below. When you hit OK, everything should come into your Pro Tools session. When I zoom out a little bit, we can see that all of our regions came into our session, and they were populated in the audio regions list, which I'll narrow a little bit. Let's expand our window. The next step is to import the video reference file and make sure everything is in sync. So we'll go to File, Import, Video, and we'll go back to our deliverables folder, and above the OMF we have our reference video. We'll click Open, and it'll ask us if we want to put it on a new track, which is good. Put it at the session start, and we do want to check Import Audio from File, so we have a reference of the original audio from the reference video that we can use as we work. It's going to ask us to choose a destination for this audio, and it automatically defaults to the audio files folder of this session. which is a good place to put it. So we'll click Open. And as it's bringing it in, you notice that the video window is quite large. So we're going to want to downsize that, right-click on it, and we'll change it to half size. And then we'll further drag it smaller from the bottom right. And I like to put my video window in the top right of my Pro Tools Edit window. So now we want to make sure that everything's in sync. The best way to do this is, if your video is good and included sync pops, we can check those against the video reference. I can see that our sync pops are hanging out in the beginning of our sequence, so I'm going to click on it and zoom in very close. I also want to make sure we're in grid mode here, and that our grid is set to 1 frame, which it is. I can see here that the sync pop is actually a little bit off from the grid boundary. This might be due to the fact that we're referencing the wrong timecode rate. So let's check that. We're going to open the video track to medium size so we can see the frame rate of the video, which we can see here is 23.98, rounded up from 23.976. And notice that it's red. Whenever the numbers are red, it means that your Pro Tools session is not referencing the correct video frame rate. So we'll have to fix that in the session setup. Go up to Setup, Session, and here's our session setup window. You can see that because the metadata told us that the original OMF was at 24 frames per second, it's actually off. So we're going to go in here and change it to 23.976. As you can see, the numbers are now white, so Pro Tools is happy. It's referencing the correct timecode rate. And let's check our 2-pop. Close the session setup window, and look, it's right on the frame line. And it happens to be, if I click on it, here up to the frame line, right on the video reference of 2. So if I go back 1 frame, you can see that was number 3. If I go there, number 2, and I go 1 later, and it's nothing. So that's our 2-pop. Works perfectly, and we can watch it. If I back up a little bit and hit play, we'll hear it, and we'll see it go by. Let's check the end of our session as well. Zoom out a little bit. And here we have a sync pop, also corresponding this time to a frame of bars. It's right on the frame border, so that's good. I'm going to go back 1 frame, no bars, forward 1 frame, there's the bars, and to the next frame, and there's no bars. So we're right in sync, and I can play that as well. We can also see that the reference audio, visually, if I zoom in on the waveform a little bit, also has its sync pop at the same exact location. So I'll zoom out, and that's good news. That means everything's in sync. Now, the last couple things I usually do here is I take the video out of frames mode and into block mode. This actually just conserves some DSP power. It's nice to see the frames, but they're not totally necessary since we have the video reference up here, and it conserves some system usage power. So now you have some good insight into importing OMF and AAF files. These steps are crucial to getting you set up properly so you can launch right into your audio editing without any trouble.